Well, good Friday morning, everyone. Ready for the weekend? Well, I hope you're starting to get ready and excited about our worship. Or if you go to another church, get excited about your worship. In Saddleback, it's 9 and 11 in Clubhouse 5. Love to meet you and greet you and have you come join in the worship that is always joy-filled. Hey, we're in day 2 of learning some American history together and how much the Bible influenced our country in those days. And I kind of have mixed feelings about that because currently doesn't have as much influence, but it's great to know our roots and be thankful to God for them and why they work. It's coming from a book, I hope you'll read it, 100 Bible Verses That Made America. In our bookstore, boy, it's just I'm only giving you like a dribble of it. Yesterday, we talked about Jamestown and the things that happened in September of 1608, where the verse that if anyone will not work, neither will he eat, and how that influenced the way Jamestown was able to make it. That's really the only British settlement quite a while that survived. So it's in the 1600s, but an event happened in the 1500s in England that impacts the thing we're going to look at today, and that is the Pilgrims. How did the Pilgrims, what we call the Pilgrims, get started? Well, in 1553, King Henry VIII declared that he was the head of the Church of England. This was not acceptable to a lot of Bible-believing followers of Jesus. And so, by the way, that was the start of the Anglican Church. So there were a group that wanted to stay pure to the scriptures. They call themselves the Puritans. Now, some of the Puritans decided to stay within the Anglican Church and see if they could reform it and ask God to allow them to do so. But the majority, or a large number of them, the Puritans and separatists, as they were sometimes called also, because they separated themselves from the Church of England, they went to Holland. And large numbers were in Holland, actually. And you fast forward from the mid 1500s to the early 1600s, and they were discontent living in Holland also, not so much as the persecution, but because they wanted to also practice their English customs, and they were kind of being absorbed to the Dutch habits. So you fast forward, and in 1620, September 6th of 1620, what we know, as the Puritans sailed from Plymouth Harbor, and the voyage to America began. Remember the ship they were on? It was the Mayflower. Now, the Mayflower was really not made for passengers. It was small. It was really just the length of a tennis court. It had been made for cargo. But all 102 passengers and the 25 crew members were crammed into that tight space. And it was miserable. It was a rough trip. It took them 66 days, almost double the length of the average trip to America from Europe. It was rough. It was tough. There was hardly any means of sanitations. Their cargo hold where they all lived, no one could stand up. It was only 5 feet in height, except for the children, of course. Midway through, on September 22nd, they read what became their favorite Bible passage. And the Pilgrims read this every day. It was Psalm 107. Can I read it to you? You can see why they appreciated it so much. Those who go down to the sea in ships, who do business on the great waters, they see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he commands and raises the stormy wind, which lifts the waves of the sea. They seem to mount up to the heavens, and they go down to the depths. Their soul melts, and because of the trouble, they reel to and fro and stagger like a drunken man. They're at wit's end, so they cry out to the Lord in their trouble. And he brings them out of their distress. He calms the storms. The waves are still, and then they are glad because the waves are quiet. So he guides them to their desired haven. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. They love that. He's going to see them through. And he did. They land at what is Plymouth Rock? I mean, if you ever go see it, it's surprisingly small, but it's there, and it's where the Pilgrims landed. But probably the key thing they did is they wrote what became kind of their governing document, and it was called the Mayflower Compact, and they all signed it on November 11th, 1620. And that became the cornerstone of American representative government. The Pilgrims didn't know how significant that it would be, but it was the first time in history since the children of Israel in the Sinai wilderness that people had voluntarily covenanted together to create their own civil government. Isn't that something? All the rest were kings and dictators and rulers. But this is a group of people deciding that they would just submit to their agreement. And that became the cornerstone of American representative government. Why did it work? How could it work? Here's why. Here's what they signed. In the name of God, amen. Starts off recognizing God. We whose names are underwritten have undertaken for the glory of God. They're doing this for his glory and the advancement of the Christian faith and the honor of king and country. They still saw themselves as English. A voyage to plant the first colony in the northern part of Virginia. Do by these solemnly swear and mutually agree in the presence of God and one another. We covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body. Wow. You know, it worked because they start off, they're recognizing God. This whole thing, God is in their lives. They were doing it for him. And when a group of Christians decided that they would work together and share their goods, work for the common good, it made it. It made it. These were our forefathers. And they came to New England. They called it Virginia because, as we said yesterday, Virginia stretched all the way up the coast. What was then viewed as Virginia. I think we still need that verse. Verse 30 of Psalm 107. It's so applicable to you and I when we go through rough waters. They went through literal rough waters. Sometimes in our life, there's waves. There's bumps in the road. And he said, so Psalm 107, verse 30, the key verse for them and for us today. He, God, guides them to their desired haven. We may have rough waters here on this earth, but our desired haven is heaven. And he's going to direct us there if you just follow him. He's leading the way. Wow. Oh, man. Thank you, pilgrims. Look forward to meeting you in heaven and hearing your stories. Thank you for settling our country. Hey, God bless. We'll see you on Monday. We're going to continue on next week. Bye.
And I won't worry about tomorrow. I'm trusting